I found my husband's anniversary surprise, and it crushed me. The world tilted on its axis that day. The day I discovered the cruelest secret imaginable. After 7 years. 7 years of marriage. A life meticulously built. A family lovingly nurtured. It all shattered. My husband, had been having an affair with his secretary. On our anniversary. No less. Buckle up. Because this is a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and the kind of revenge that leaves a scar. Let me call him H. Backstory: we met in college. H was striking, tall, undeniably handsome. I'd always been a shy, awkward person, keeping to myself. He seemed like trouble, a type I'd never dared to approach before. Before H, I'd never even been in a serious relationship. We met at a mutual friend's party. I remember thinking, it's time to let go of my fears and just meet someone. Then I stumbled upon his profile on a dating site. He didn't seem like the type who is actually single. Gathering every ounce of courage, I messaged him. He actually remembered me from the party. We clicked instantly, bonding over our shared love of cats. I didn't rush things. But eventually, he asked me out. After getting to know him, he seemed nice enough. Our first date was simple. Just pizza. H was perfect for me, sweet, gentle. The kind of man you could bring home to mom. Everything felt natural. Easy. 2 months in. Things were amazing. We rarely argued. He was so funny. 2. After 2.5 years, he proposed. He asked me to marry him. And I said yes. We finished college. Got married. Saving enough money. We bought a house in Lakeside, California. Ready to start our family. I began training to be a marriage counselor. It was my passion. Our marriage felt like a soul-deep connection. We loved and respected each other. Our bedroom life was active and fulfilling. I truly had no reason to ever doubt him. I never snooped on his phone. Nothing like that. Our first daughter arrived 2 years into our marriage. We were overjoyed to be parents. He was a wonderful dad. A devoted husband. Or so it appeared. The cracks started to show after our second daughter was born. Something between us faded. I told myself it was normal in long-term relationships, that the physical spark would wane. Now, I realized I was willfully blind to the warning signs. Things got different. I excused it as stress from work. The pressure of chasing a promotion to senior manager, promising better family health coverage and more. We used to talk about everything. But those conversations dried up. I tried. I desperately tried to reach out. But I couldn't understand what was going on with him. We only spoke about the kids or bills. He always had some excuse about work. Then there was the fact that he was always short on money. But he wasn't buying fancy clothes or shoes, certainly not for me. One day we fought about it. He said he had friends and other responsibilities, implying I was selfish. Looking back, those were the first flashing neon signs that something was wrong. But I ignored them. How could I have been so blind? The bitter irony, of course, is that I am a relationship counselor, giving couples advice on how to avoid affairs. While infidelity was blossoming under my own roof, I felt alone, a little depressed. I helped people fix their marriages, but couldn't figure out how to fix mine. He wouldn't talk to me, so I didn't know where to start. I was caring for our 2 children by myself because he'd always come home late. Blaming traffic or a car breakdown, always some excuse. The kids barely saw him. The real knife twist. How naive I was. He had an abusive stepfather, and he was a heavy smoker. I was concerned, but just assumed it to be men in there. I just assumed. He preferred to be out. Any chance he got. We fought constantly about it. When he came home a little drunk from drinking with his friends, I'd ask if any women had shown interest. He always insisted nothing like that happened. Even when he was drunk, it didn't cross my mind that he might be lying. I knew we were going through a rough patch, but I told myself it was normal. I took his word as enough. Occasionally, I'd rifle through his pockets, check his shirt collars for lipstick. I never found anything. That's why I was fooled for so long. He never struck me as a Jack the Lad. He wasn't flirty or cheesy. He didn't fit the description of men I have known to cheat. It just goes to show that there really is no type. I found out about the affair one night. Before bed, he got out of the shower. I was reading a book in bed and noticed a bright red mark at the back of his neck. A hickey. Faint. But there. We exploded. I told him I'd leave if he didn't love me anymore. I also told him if and when he wanted to be with me and be a family again. I'll be waiting. He became very sad. Remorseful. Or, rather, he seemed that way because he'd been caught. He begged and pleaded, promising to be better. He claimed he'd had too much to drink with his friends and hooked up with a girl at a bar. It was stupid. He shouldn't have done it. We made up. I agreed. But deep down, doubt gnawed at me. I was sure that if I could get him to open up, maybe I could inject some desire back into our marriage. The first day went well. It was great seeing him open up, discussing our personal needs. I felt closer to H than I had in years. We still didn't have sex, but we were getting somewhere. But there was no doubt in my mind that he was cheating now. I couldn't prove it, but I had this gut feeling it was more than a what-I'm fling. I got depressed. The more I thought about it, I started to see the similarities between him and the men in some of the stories I'd heard. It got worse. I started to think maybe there was no coming back from this. No saving our marriage. From all the stories I followed, I learned one thing: if a partner was ever unfaithful to you, she probably didn't want to be with you and didn't deserve to be with you. I thought about my kids and I cried. I opened up to an online friend. The fact that I couldn't confirm the affair was eating me up. She recommended a good divorce lawyer. I said I'd think about it. Then, one afternoon, a friend called me. She and her husband came to our wedding and are very good friends of ours. She called to check up on me and the kids. She said H was looking good last week and complimented me on taking care of him. You were in town and you didn't call me. You're such a bad friend. She said she had waved, but I didn't notice. She said she thought we were on a date. We looked so cute. She didn't want to interrupt. She liked my coat, which she said was a Dior chest. I was baffled. I told her I hadn't been at the mall. I didn't own that coat. She described the lady a little, blonde hair. I'm blonde. She asked if everything was okay, then immediately hung up. I called H. I asked him who he was at the mall with in San Diego last week. I told him I hate him. I was fed up with his BS. He came home very late that day, and we didn't speak for days. Days turned into weeks. He didn't show any remorse, any apology. He acted like everything was fine, like he'd done nothing wrong. My fears were confirmed, and I cried for days. I didn't want to leave or get a divorce because of my kids. I thought a lot about his AP. Who she was. I had a head start, thanks to my good friend. I thought about all the blondes that we knew. I was so tired. I thought maybe I wasn't too late. Maybe I could still start a new life with someone else. Hopefully. One Saturday, while cleaning his office, I snooped around. I found a few of his business cards. They were great guys. Nice people. Then, I noticed a picture with a woman at the far end of the picture, wearing the same coat my friend described. But she had red hair. I looked her up in their company portfolio, got her name, searched her on Facebook, found her address. Her and my ex were friends. I was enraged. Nothing was confirmed, though. I was thinking of finally giving the pie thing a chance when he walked in the house with the kids. One look at him, and I realized I really didn't love him anymore. I decided, to hell with him. To hell with everything. I was getting a divorce. How naive I'd been all these years. I deserved better. My kids did, too. That night, I was nice to him. I acted like everything was normal. I made dinner, asked about his day, even told him I loved him. I could see the confusion and uneasiness in his eyes, but I didn't care. He didn't bother him either. I slept peacefully that night. Our anniversary was coming up. He said he needed to represent the branch. He would make it back in time for our anniversary to spend some time together and go on a trip. Reconnect. I kept saying, okay, honey, do. The day came, and he left. I had already called a good lawyer referred by my online friend to help with the divorce. The plan was to just leave him, to disappear with the kids, but that suddenly didn't feel good enough. Not enough. I wanted him to know I knew what he had done. I dropped my kids at my sister's and started driving to AP's address. Was I going too far? What if it was all a misunderstanding? I got to the address, and when I saw his car parked in the driveway, all doubts vanished. I could see them through the living room window, making out on the couch, finally proceeding to the bedroom. That's where I lost it. I took pictures and videos. My lawyer had said that would help me. I went home, packed up all my things, prepared the kids, packed, and moved out. I left all the photos printed in a flash drive full of the videos on the kitchen table. I looked around one more time and moved away back to my hometown. To my sisters, I emailed the evidence to everyone we knew. We were the talk of the town for the next week. The counselor getting a divorce. Town gossips were having a field day. I had arranged for him to be served immediately after he got home. My phone buzzed all day and night. He left so many voice notes, pleading, begging me to stop, then blaming me for everything. I had my sister and friends with me, consoling me. I'll always remember what they did, how they took care of me and my kids. He tracked me down to my sister's place and demanded to see me, but they didn't let him and threatened to call the cops. We finalized the divorce after 2 months. I got the kids, nice alimony, and child support. I still stay with my sister. She and her husband have been good to us and wouldn't even hear the thought of me leaving and getting a place. The videos I sent were everywhere. AP had to quit her job out of shame. I didn't know she had a boyfriend. He was a large, rough-looking man, like he belonged to a biker gang. He wasn't pleased. I saw a video on Facebook one day. The boyfriend got his revenge, but it was brutal. As much as I enjoyed him getting what he deserved, I couldn't laugh, 'cause he was in a pretty critical state. But at the point of writing this, he's doing okay. H still texts and calls, apologizing for what he's done. I feel sorry for him. Now, on to the next story. Story to title options. 1. Kids expose mom's affair. Wife's life crumbles years later. Did she deserve it? 2. Divorce karma hits hard. He caught her cheating. Years later, she's lost everything. Story to edit. Years later, the aftershocks of her betrayal still reverberate. I met my wife in college, got married, and never thought anything was wrong. Everything seemed fine. We'd wake up together, have breakfast as a family, then dinner, spending time together. Our intimacy hadn't changed much. Sure, it wasn't the same as when we first got married, but it was still pretty good for a couple who'd been together for so long. I think if my wife had shown some signs, it would have been a lot easier to swallow. Even after all these years, I still can't see any signs. Maybe she put up such a good mask that I was unable to see through it. The only reason I even realized something was going on was because of my kids. They happened to see mommy kissing her friend while I was at work one day. All of the kids were under the age of 10, so it was really difficult for them to process. When I got home, they instantly asked me what was going on. I can't tell you how hard it was to keep up a facade for my kids. My response was to smile at them and tell them I'd talk with their mother. That night, I did just that. My wife was taking a bath. She said the kids were mistaken. She was just giving her friend from work a hug. It's crazy how genuine my wife sounded. I almost wanted to believe her, but I knew my kids wouldn't make something like that up. It wasn't easy to confuse a kiss with a hug. However, I let my wife think that I believed her and decided to go old school. I hired a PI to confirm. We had the money, so I figured it was a good way to make use of it to get proof. Within 2 weeks, I had my evidence and presented it to my wife. She didn't have much to say. All she did was cry and cry. It wasn't planned. Of course. It just happened. At that moment, I knew my marriage was over. There was just no way I could stay in a marriage with a woman who cheated on me. Call me old-fashioned. If I hadn't hired a PI, she probably never would have told me the truth. I had to start the divorce proceedings. She did beg me to stay, but eventually slinked off to be with her AP. We had an amicable divorce and custody agreement. They understood what their mother did once they were old enough. Never did I say anything to them about it. Never talked badly about their mother because, in the end, she was their mother. I tried my best to answer their questions honestly. It got to the point where my kids didn't even want to spend time with their mother anymore. She did take me to court. But by this point, they didn't even listen to what their mother had to say, so the judge refused to hear her. By this point, my ex had remarried her AP and had a kid with him. This was probably another reason why our kids didn't want to go over there anymore. Once they went away to college, she couldn't use any more legal means to try to force them to see her, even though it didn't work anyway because the judge wouldn't let her. The years passed. My kids graduated college. I was thrilled to become a grandfather for the first time. It truly is different from being a parent and gives you a great opportunity to be there with them. At some point, my wife stopped trying to get into contact with our kids, but started up again after her husband died. She only had one kid now with a deceased husband, but they weren't planning on having kids anytime soon. Her only chance of having grandkids was to be around the ones we shared. However, our kids still wanted nothing to do with her. I don't know if my ex-wife wanted to brag about it on social media, or wanted a relationship with her grandkids because she genuinely wanted it. Whatever the reason, it was their right. She kept trying to message them on social media and tried to see if they would rekindle a relationship. So she's missed out on a lot of special moments with her grandkids. I remarried myself a few years ago, and my second wife has become more of a grandmother to my grandkids. They barely even know of her existence. My ex lost a lot of her friends and even some of her family. They turned against her because they didn't like what my ex did to me. We never had any issues with each other, and they still reached out to me now and then. I wasn't as close to them as I once was, but we continued to talk to each other a few times a year. While I have a rich family life, my ex is now a bitter and lonely widow. From what I have heard, even her child with her deceased husband isn't very close to her. They have distanced themselves from my ex, and for some reason, I didn't care to know why. But I could come up with a few reasons why they would do that. Had my wife not stepped outside our marriage, she could have had what I have. I didn't have an ounce of pity for her because she made her bed, and she was going to have to continue to lay in it until she took her last breath. Closing question for both stories. Based on everything you've read, do you think I handled the situation correctly? Should I have done anything differently? What would you have done in my shoes? I'm really curious to hear your opinions and get some perspective on all of this.